Nathen reacts summer week 3 to the 20-year-old with a plan to rid the ocean of garbage. How did Boyan Slat follow the engineering process?
Well, he found the problem, defined it, figured out the solution, then put it into action.
What need did he first identify?
The need to clean up the plastics and everything in the water without injuring or getting fish.
Can you think of problems in your community that could be solved through innovation and or entrepreneurial thinking?
Well, maybe remove the need for vehicles. Make like a rack that slides underground with bikes you can borrow.
Why underground?
That way it won't take up too much space above ground.
Oddly enough, there's this thing that they have in Quebec City. It's kind of they're found on every street corner. It's a little timed rack of free bicycles. And what you do is you go and you put in your key or whatever, and it times you. You're allowed to borrow a bicycle for this amount of time, and it has to be returned to another rack, and all the racks are connected to each other to ensure that nobody's stealing the bikes, right? And each bike is, of course, GPS, so, all that kind of stuff doesn't happen. And they found that since they implemented this new bicycle program into parts of Quebec, it's reduced the amount of pollution by huge amounts. People are using bikes more than they're using cars now in those cities.
Exactly where the idea came from. I thought, look at solutions already created that one could incorporate in other areas.
And I personally think it's an awesome idea. However, in an area like here where the large majority of the population is overweight or elderly, I was thinking, what if we implemented something different? Something that I saw a couple kids doing. Now, this was years and years ago, back before, they started drinking and partying all the time. This one kid had a really great idea. He hooked up 3 bicycles to kind of like a big cart thing with like 4 or 5 seats in it. And he was driving around town picking up elders and bicycling them home. Rather than having them take taxis and stuff, he would just go and collect them and take them home. And he was charging like $2 a seat or something like that. And I thought that was so brilliant. I was like, that is such a creative idea. And the reason for the 3 bicycles is for the speed and the power. But they were all connected by this like little pole thing. So only one person could run the middle one, and it set them all running at the same time. It was really neat. But I thought that was a really cool idea, a real neat solution to the problem of, overweight elders who can't just ride a bike.
Or you have some sort of carpooling type plan using like electric vehicles.
That is another solution.
The less we need to use vehicles, the better. So instead of, like an example I saw yesterday when I went on my walk, a guy, he got in his truck, drove down the street a bit so he could go up another street. Didn't know, no clue what he did there. Took him about a second to get onto the other side. It's one of the roads that go around.
Yeah.
And then he just went back onto his street.
I've noticed that there are a lot of lazy people who have become accustomed to driving instead of walking. Um, I've never been able to understand somebody who like gets in their car to drive 2 doors down to visit a friend instead of just walking. But there are people who are like that. They're so accustomed to driving that the idea of walking 2 doors is too far.
Or they decide, oh, hey, I really like my truck, so I'm just going to drive it for fun.
What did you notice?
Well, it's despicable how much people just throw away. I mean, you can use the same object a surprising amount of times. I mean, let's say you have a bunch of bottle caps of different colors. Why not turn them into jewelry? Or just reuse the entire bottle, several times.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things you could do. Do what we do on recycle cans, but when we get bored, we use our pellet guns and shoot at them. Target practice. It's not doing any damage to the environment, and it's also reusing the same thing several times.
True. What did you wonder?
Why do people end up throwing everything away when it's no longer useful?
Well, as I raised you to recycle. I raised you to, as much as we can reduce our impact on the environment. However, there are people who, I hate to say it, like my best friend Sutherland, they're too lazy to recycle. It's easier for them to just throw it in the garbage than it is for them to collect it, wash it, clean it, take it into recycling. They don't think of the greater impact. They think of only themselves.
And the immediate consequences.
Yes. And unfortunately, there are a lot more people like that than people like us who take the time to think, well, hey, I could put 1,000,000 empty cans into the garbage and leave it for somebody else to deal with the problem. Or I could take 10 minutes out of my day to wash, clean, and bag and take them in. It's really a matter of laziness. And in today's society, unfortunately, laziness is becoming mainstream. How did you feel?
Irritated with the human race?
Oh, what did you learn?
Well, the guy created a very simple design, yet it's also very, very effective. So it kind of goes against what most people say. It's this design is too simple, it will never work. Well, look at this one. It essentially looks like a tray that someone just taped a plastic bag to.
Just on a very large scale. I think for me the thing that I found the most interesting is this kid's very young, and yet he managed to, like he was saying, his education and all that stuff kind of went on the back burner. This became his guiding light, and he's focused on it. And the rest, he's like, my aerospace degree, I'll get back to it eventually, but right now, this is where I'm going with this.
It's kind of funny. He's like, the fact that he did all of this without completing his schooling beforehand, it actually kind of says something. And very interested about the schooling system that most people have.
Well, I find it interesting that this kid without degrees is running an entire thing in charge of people with degrees. Like he said, he's got scientists, he's got ecologists, he's got all these other people under him who all have like their degrees working for him. And it's all because it was his idea. I thought that was really neat. Sometimes a degree does not make the man.
The man makes the degree.